Welcome to the office. This is Lagos Talks 91.3. Now it's gone 32 minutes past the hour of 4. It is the 17th of August 2023. And on the office today, as you know, we bring you highly skilled HR professionals to discuss trends and issues and developments concerning the HR space, but not just the HR space, but also the entire workforce put together. And as you know, this is a partnership brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and Lagos Talks 91.3. My guest today is a passionate individual, about someone who's very passionate about working with people to improve stakeholders' value. He has a combined working experience of over 21 years in management, sales, operations, and HR functions in both startups and the growing organizations. He has attended several training covering areas in management, leadership, human resources, etc., amongst others within and outside Nigeria. He's an accomplished business leader, very passionate about motivating, educating, and mentoring others on how to become successful in their chosen career of choice. He's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Management and the Institute of Directors of Nigeria. My guest today is Mr. Emmanuel Olaegbe, FCIPM. He is the Managing Director and CEO of Quails Support Services Limited. Welcome to the office, sir.
It is indeed a pleasure to be here.
Yes. You sound like a broadcaster.
Yeah, it's something I look forward to later in here.
Okay. The thing about the voice, it never leaves. It's always there. So I'm sure it doesn't matter how old you are or when you want to start. It's still a great time. So it's good.
I think that's an encouragement.
Yeah. Don't give up on that dream. Don't give up on it. You definitely have it. Take it from me.
Oh, that's a good compliment. I'll take it. Thank you.
All right. So today we'll be talking about HR's role in employer branding. I don't know too much about employer branding, and that's what I love about the office. There's always something new. I'm always learning new things. And I mean, obviously, I'm not in the HR space, so everything is pretty much alien to me, but I just love the learning curve that it provides. So please educate myself and the listeners. What exactly is employer branding?
Okay. Just like I said, it is indeed a pleasure to be here. Yeah. Employers' branding is just like everything around branding. Branding creates a unique identity, character, value for something that makes it extremely different from any other thing. But when you talk about employer branding, it is a strategic approach focused on creating a very positive perception about an organization or an employer in the eyes of an existing employee, a prospective candidate, or the general public. It focuses on ensuring that the reputation and the image of the organization is portrayed in a very good light, and to ensure that they can attract, retain, and engage employees.
But that's good, but why should we bother about employer branding? I mean, if the business is just there to make profits, and do right by their host communities and pay their taxes and make sure their staff are living well as far as their welfare is concerned, why should any organization or establishment bother about employer branding? What are the benefits of it?
There's a lot of benefit. Okay. As you know, the world is a very global village now, and to attract good talent now, it's becoming a very, very important thing organizations are focusing on. And for you to do that, you need to provide a brand that employee feel very comfortable to work in. And so, for a company, what it does is that, one, it creates a good opportunity to attract the best brains within the organization. Okay. Because when you have a good brand, people want to work with you. It also makes recruitment easy for the HR practitioners because everybody wants to work. It also ensures that you have cost savings because it then shortens the recruitment processes and all the rest of it. And generally, it makes the morale of employees also to be very, very high because when they work in a brand that is well known all over the place, they want to be associated with a brand like that. So basically, those are some of the benefits. Why employer branding is a focus, because it's very critical to success of most organizations these days.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm just wondering, is this the same thing as creating creating some sort of influential staff members, staff members that have some quality that you see. I really want to know about employer branding, because I'm just wondering, are these like internal influencers within the organization?
No, not at all.
So do you think employer branding is strictly an HR affair? Let's start there. Whose responsibility is it to create good employer branding? Whose job is it?
Well, HR is the central person around employer branding.
Okay.
But it's not just HR's responsibility.
Okay. Who else shares the responsibility?
It is a collective responsibility of practically all the departments in the organization. Okay. From both in marketing and communication, we ensure that they communicate compelling and very consistent message about the brand. Right. Also, they have to work closely with people in facility management or admin, because they have to provide a very good environment for the employees to work as part of the brand. Then also leadership and management has to be committed to it, because without their commitment, employer branding can't work. Mm-hmm. They also have to work with the strategy and the operations of the organization, because the strategy has to align with the brand the company is trying to project out there. And more importantly, even the product and services the organization churn out has to align with the kind of brand they are trying to communicate to the population.
Okay, does it also help when some of the staff members are influential in their own right? Does that help in employer branding? Does it help position the brand to be seen in a certain light when staff members are influential in that specific field? Or especially since we're in the digital age right now, people who spread their tentacles, does it also rub off well on the brand?
Sure it does. That's what we call employee advocacy. Okay. And that is always encouraged, where employees who are presently working those brands share their experiences and tell the world how beautiful it is working those brands. Okay. Those attract people to come and work with those kind of brand. Right. Without mentioning names, we know that there are quite a number of organizations and brands that a lot of people want to work with. Once you mention those kind of brands, they want to work with them. And why do they want to work with them? It's because they've created a brand that is very attractive. They've created a workplace that is very nice to work in. They've also created a career opportunities for employees there and all the likes. So basically, of course, employee advocacy is very important. People that help you communicate how good the brand is, your existing employees. So sure they are.
Okay, so what exactly is the HR human resource role in employee branding? Sorry.
Okay.
What do they do?
Just like I said, HR is very central to employer branding. And what HR does is that they are the one that drives the initiative around employer branding. They are the one that ensures that the brand the company wants to try and put out there is communicated in the right way. They are the one that also create what we call the employee value proposition, which talks about what are the benefits, what are the times benefit for employees to come and work in those organizations. So HR basically are the ones that do that. They also ensure that the employees are engaged rightly and in a positive manner. They also ensure that employees that are about to be recruited and both are working have a good employee experience and that can be communicated to people out there. These are a few of the things HR does, among other things, to ensure that they drive employer branding.
All right. So what strategies can be put in place to build employer branding? Tell us some of the strategies.
Okay, there are a number of them, actually, just like individual brands. How do you want to present your brand to the public?
So, what about the marketing department? Do they also help with
marketing? Yes, marketing and communication, because they are going to be the one driving those communications that are compelling, that are consistent, in line with what the brand wants to represent.
Digital marketing
as well. Yes, of course. You must have presence in digital space and all through the other communication channels. So it's very important. Okay. So I think you asked something just before.
Yes, the strategies.
Okay, the strategies. There are a number of things you can put in place. One of them I've told earlier is that for you to have a good employer brand, you must clearly define the kind of brand you want to communicate out there. It's extremely important. Then HR must come out with a compelling employee value proposition that will be beneficial to employees that want to work in those space. And also, they must collaborate effectively with all departments to ensure that there's alignment within that space. And you did also mention earlier that you must be out there in all the communication channels, especially the social media space right now, which is a very big space people playing now. So this and some of that strategies are things you can put out there. You also must understand the kind of audience you are trying to appeal to. Okay. It's because in knowing those audience, it is easier to put in strategies and the kind of condition of service and benefit that attracts those kind of people. Right. And generally, you must ensure that there's a lot of collaboration within all departments, and everybody must be aligned to ensure that we deliver on those brands we want to portray to the public.
Right. Okay, so where does partnership lie when it comes to employer branding?
I mean, employer branding is all about partnership. There's a lot of stakeholders involved. We've talked about the employees, we've talked about HR, we've talked about all that department, even sometimes the community and the companies operating. Because you also want to create a very good positive image around the community. So you might have a lot of social, corporate social responsibilities to portray the brand as a very good brand. Yeah. You also want to ensure, like I said, the product and services you are churning out there, no matter how appealing you are communicating a brand, if the product does not also stand for the brand you are communicating, it's a waste of time. Another thing that is also very important is that what you communicate must align what actually is on ground. Sometimes if there's no alignment, because it's not just about practice what I say, but also practice what I do. So from leadership to the product and everything must align with that brand, so that when the people understand what brand you're trying to create, and when they see the product and things you do, they can align together.
But I just want to also ask more questions. What can possibly make an employer branding fail? And how do you really mitigate something like that, especially for upcoming HRs who are listening and are trying to effect some change in their establishment or organization, and they're bringing in new ideas? What is there anything they can do? Is there anything that can happen that can make a strategy, an employee branding strategy, fail? And how can they really mitigate that?
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Yeah. There are a number of things that can make employer branding fail. Starting from setting up what do you want the brand to represent. I mean, if you are not very clear about what you want your brand to represent, the chances are, just like if you don't set clear goals and clear objectives, the chances of failing is very high, because you don't know what exactly you are directing your energy towards. So the first thing is to ensure that when you're putting the strategy together, it is extremely very clear and the vision is clear to everybody about the kind of brand you want to create. So if those are not well thought out and set out, the journey might be a little very difficult. Okay. That's the first thing that is extremely very important. Another thing that is extremely very important is, are you clear about the employee value proposition your organization is offering to the people, to the employees that are interested in working for you, or the existing people that are working for you? Because it's only when employees, both the existing one and the prospective candidate, know exactly what it is in need for them. What kind of environment are you creating? What is the career opportunities available? What is the career path you have for me? What are the learning and development programs you have for me? And those kind of environments you created and all those things, you must be very clear to define them. But sometimes a lot of organizations do not clearly define what their employee value proposition is. And then it becomes extremely difficult to attract the right people. Another thing is also the misalignment of all the stakeholders in this whole journey. I've talked about the fact that it's not just an HR thing. Yes, HR probably is in the middle of it to drive it, but it's a collaborative effort. And all those efforts must be aligned together, because if they are not aligned together, obviously the chances of failure is very, very high. So, of course, to mitigate against that, you have to ensure that you pull all the resources and all the stakeholders together and ensure that we are all working in one direction. Another thing that is extremely very important is that, have you clearly set out how do you want to manage the employee experience within your workforce and those that are coming into the employee recruitment process? Because you see, people will remember what they experience, not what is said. And so when you have not put in place all the necessary things in place to ensure that the experience is wow, then it becomes extremely difficult to ensure you sustain those kind of brand. Those are the few things that can come to mind right now that can make play. Okay. Another thing I remember now is also the fact that have you clearly defined your target audience? Because your target audience will also help you to know the kind of employee value proposition you put in place for the employees you want to attract to your organization. I think those are the few things I can remember right now.
All right. Thank you. Now, you've mentioned, the benefits around employer branding. It's been quite focused on attracting the right talents, retaining the right talents. But what about reputation? What about brand reputation? That
is also extremely very important. But, one of the things you realize that when you're going to put out your brand or the reputation or image, it starts from your people, which are the employees, because they're the one that will drive your reputation. Because if you don't get the kind of people right and you don't make them as happy as you want, no matter the kind of reputation and image you want to put out there, it's not going to be easy to put out there. But employer branding is also woved around reputation, image, and create the positive perception to people on the outside. So definitely reputation and image is very, very important to employer branding.
All right. Thank you so much. That's all the questions that I have today. But do you have any final words to share on HR's role in employer branding with us?
Okay. I just want to say on the final note that just like every other brand, you must be able to create a unique characteristics, value that you want your brand to represent. And then HR should be at the driving seat of ensuring that happens. But more importantly, HR should understand it's going to be a collaborative effort to ensure that all the stakeholders are pulled together to ensure that we're driving towards ensuring the kind of brand we want to communicate out there is actualized. I think that for me, it's extremely very important. Brand is everything, even at individual level. So it does not, for organization too, I think it's extremely very important. It should be at the cornerstone of the DNA of the organization because that drives the success of modern day organization. Thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Olaegbe, FCIPM. He is our guest today. He's the Managing Director, CEO, Global Quails Support Services Limited. And yes, we've just learned so much about employer branding. If you'd like to continue this conversation on Twitter, if you have more questions, you can send us tweets at Lagos Talks 913. That is at Lagos Talks 913. Or join us next time. We do this every Thursday from 4:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. right here on Lagos Talks 91.3. Have a beautiful evening.